Alright, what's up guys? Welcome back. So, working on the auction truck again. I got the little man out here with me, just kind of hanging out watching. And first thing I wanted to do was talk about some of these bolts. I said I took the heads off because I couldn't get to two of the transmission bell housing bolts. So I wanted to clarify that a little bit because there was a lot, I guess a few guys saying that I should use an extension to get to the back. That's how I did get these off, but these are a different kind of bolts. They have a little stud on the end and there's a bracket there. So this bracket that holds those fuel lines and that harness, that black bracket, is being held in by one of these studs. So I was able to, with the long extension, get this one off, but I wasn't able to get this one off because I couldn't get the bracket off away from it with the head still on. So I wasn't able to get around with enough leverage to pry that thing off. And then the other one was the dipstick. And I didn't realize at first that the dipstick was slotted. It wasn't a ring. So I could have actually probably just lifted the dipstick up and off of it, but I couldn't see that at the time while I was working on it. So anyways, heads had to come off anyways, so just wanted to show you guys that if you guys are actually doing that, kind of what I ended up struggling with. So this bracket here, and you can see I can barely push it back, even with the head off. I ended up having to use some wrenches and pry it off. So with the head out of the way, I still had to get like something behind it to pry it off. I can't even push it back far enough to get it back onto the stud. So now that it's off, I'll be able to get that bolt out there just fine. And then this one was for the dipstick. You can see the bottom of it was actually slotted. So I could have I had the nut off of it, but I didn't realize it was slotted on the bottom. I could have probably just lifted it up and got it off, but now they're both out. These bolts are coming out. So now the block should be ready to come out. I just got to get the transmission cooler lines unbolted from the block. I do have the mount bolts out. So let's yank this thing. Alrighty guys, so interesting story. I'm going to get the hoist hooked up and was going through and hooking these bolts up, and for some reason, I think it was when I was going to loosen this one, it came out like really loose. And look at these. All these other bolts are like just finger tight in here. So even the back ones too. These are a little bit tighter, but they're barely tight. So yeah, these I was able to just loosen with my finger. So I think that kind of confirms even further that somebody was in this motor at one point and just messed it up when they put it back together. So that probably also explained why there's fresh oil. Remember I said when I picked it up, the oil looked like it was brand new and filter looks like it was brand new. So somebody probably went through, did all this work, dropped the bolt in there, messed it up, blew it up, and took it to the auction. And here we are. Alrighty guys, it's a bit later now and this thing is out. So I am gonna go, while the engine is out, I am going to work on getting the exhaust manifolds out so that it's a little bit easier to put back in. I think I'm gonna struggle a little bit putting it back in if I take it out the same way with the mounts still on there like that. So what I think I'm gonna do is what I just said and take those off first. I did break the dipstick because the dipstick was still in there. Funny story about that, I'm like, oh, that's not so bad. I have a brand new dipstick that I ordered, but then I realized that I think it was on this car because this has a aftermarket Holley oil pan. I used the dipstick to plug the hole, so I TIG welded the end of it shut and cut a section off of the brand new dipstick that I had. So I'm gonna have to buy another dipstick. But what I wanted to show you guys here is this engine. So we did look at it a little bit, and I did pull this thing out already because I wanted to take a peek, but I'm gonna take you along for the ride now. Remember you guys were asking where the bolts were? Watch this. Just under this big chunk. Look at that. There is what appears to be two bolts right there. So let's start going through and pulling some more of this stuff out. So we got some piston rings. All right, it's actually one bolt that was broken off, broken in half. This looks like all two pieces of it. So what kind of bolt is that, guys? You guys are smart. What kind is that? You know what that is? That one is a upper head bolt. So I'll show you. Here is the set of head bolts. This is the top short bolts that go right by the intake runners. That's the intake bolt. So when they were putting this frigger back together, they dropped it in there, left it in. That was a short, sad day for them. So yeah, looks like that one big old bolt went through there and kind of messed this whole thing up. This rod is bent. Everything is jacked. So I don't even think I'll be able to get a full good set of rods out of this thing, but that's why it's seized, because this piece is like completely wedged down in there. So that's why it wouldn't turn over.